All right, we are back. It is this week in League De Nutz. We're almost at the halfway point of the season. I'm Matt Levine. I am the commissioner of League De Nutz. Well, we are already in our, dozenth year of competition in this league. Pretty amazing as we get ready for Week 7. Week 6 is in the books. Don't forget about me. Of course, from the Breakfast Club, Simple Minds, right? Let me adjust and show you. Let me just move the mic. Let me just show you something real quick, okay? This is what I've got on. I'm only going to stand up once to show you El Caption. Right there. Got the Jeter on. Core 4. Number 2. In Cooperstown for a good reason. The Yankee captain, right? Next to Donnie Baseball. My second favorite Yankee. More like 1 and 1A. So I'm giving you the prelude to the American League Championship Series tonight with the Cheaters and the Bronx Bombers. But we are here to talk about this week in League De Nutz and all that happened in Week 6 heading into Week 7. Hard to believe. Kind of, sort of, maybe, right? Time flies though when you are having fun. So let's kick things off with a little bit of a look at the old scoreboard in week number 6 as you get a glimpse of what went down and all the action last week right there in League De Nutz as I get my card straight. There we go. All right. 1, 2, 3. Okay, got my notes. All right, so League De Nutz last week, we had a couple teams able to escape with their 3rd straight victory and able to claim their 4th win of the season. Now, the interesting thing here, if you take a look at the old standings, you have 3 teams with winning records. I told you about the 2 teams that had the 3-game win streaks with Smash U and the Nuttstown Destroyers. I'm going to highlight those wins for them in Week 6. Meanwhile, Keldar, who topped the Del Rey Pounders last week, I'll highlight that game. Del Rey is 4-2, so they're one of the 3 with a winning mark. Then you get that clump or cluster of 3 and 3s as you start top left all the way down to the bottom right from Furley Roper, respectively, to Shoreham Drive East. You have 6 3 and 3s, a couple 2 and 4s to round it out. And that's where we stand as we go into the highlights and tell you about what went down in League De Nutz in Week 5. And we get things going right now with this game right here. It was the Nuttstown Destroyers, yours truly, improving to 4-2 with their 3rd straight victory. Keep bragging. Dizzy Dean, the great baseball Hall of Famer, said, if you can do it, it ain't bragging, right? Anyway, shouldn't get too happy. We're barely at, we are almost at the halfway point, but it was the Nuttstown Destroyers zapping the Yonkers Shotgunners. There you go. 131 to 91. So how did Nuttstown get it done? Well, they had a big 3 that led the way. And it was the top draft pick, McCaffrey, with a couple other guys that Nutz scooped up early on in that draft, if you want to call them lottery picks, as those 3 gentlemen combined for 68 points. Pictured right to left, McCaffrey, Mahomes, and Kelsey, all contributing nicely for the Nuttstown Destroyers in the win. McCaffrey was able to do some damage. New coaching staff, right? Well, sort of. In Carolina, so you figure maybe they're going to get more creative than the old coach when they just got rid of, what was his name, Rule? Maybe they'll get more creative with McCaffrey. Make him McCrafty. How about that? 69 yards last week. 21 points for him. Kelsey, 30 points. Just another day at the office. 8 grabs, 108 yards. Mahomes, the second-ranked quarterback in fantasy football, averaging 30 a game. Almost there last week. Someone has to throw it to Kelsey, right? Vice versa. Someone has to catch those darts. It's crafty. Talk about crafty. Like Dan Quisenberry, another legend in baseball in Kansas City at a different time, different era. Rest in peace, Quiz. 28 points from Mahomes, 338 yards, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions, and the loss to the Bills' second interception cost Kansas City the game. Now, as for those Yonkers shotgunners, well, not much brewing in the lineup. As one player only, that guy right there. Art imitating life. Looks great. Plays well. Jalen Hurts. Only player on Yonkers' team over 20. His teammate, Devonta Smith, last week chipping in with 15. Metcalf only 5. Let's go back to that box score. Hurts 2 touchdowns in the win against Dallas. That's interesting because that Yonkers shotgunner, this guy, man, he's a gambler, I'm telling you. Look at the bottom there, right? Hill, the Swiss Army knife of football. Kind of sort of one of those guys you just don't know how to fit in the lineup. But the gambler and the Yonkers shotgunners takes him off the waivers, plugs him in. I think he had like a 45-point game the week before. He's good for an outburst. He's an incredible athlete, just hard to get a role consistently in New Orleans. But he only puts up 3. It's Mike Kelsey's 30. And when you're a gambler and you like to make all kinds of trades, right, as well as lineup moves, you remind me of the gambler because you got no one to hold him, no one to fold him, no one to walk away, no one to run. For Double Jeopardy, what's the name of the movie that Kenny Rogers was in with all the kids, remember? Race car driver. Six Pack. I can honestly say that's not one I'll stop and watch for more than 90 seconds. Okay, I'm lying. Anyway, let's move on as I digress into the world of Kenny Rogers. May he rest in peace. Smash U. Talked about him. They won 3 straight. How'd they do it? Over Stanford, those nuts. You think I'm a Yankees fan? Holy cow. 123-115. Stanford, those nuts now 3-3. Smash, told you about them. One of 3 teams, with 4 wins. Smash went TCB. He took care of business. In week number 6 behind Tyreek Hill. Oh, Tyreek, man, what was he doing? Well, he was up to his old tricks. 12 receptions, 177 yards. He's just a fabulous football player. Highlight coming on. No, it's a little jammed up. I think it's all the people stealing the internet to watch the Yankee game. They're tuning in here for the pregame and just logjam of information on the information highway. So Tyreek's a little slow in the corner, but hey. Anyway, he's not slow on the field. 15 targets. He's averaging 29 points a game. Otherwise, for Smash U, there was one other guy with 20 points a game. He knows how to high hurdle. Iowa State University, a Cyclone. Breece Hall, 24 in the win for the Jets against Green Bay at Lambeau. Weird uniforms last week for the Packers, right? Logoless helmets, kind of like a neonish yellow on just logoless lime green type uniforms. Anyway, in the win for the Jets, he helped himself pole vault, or hurdle, I should say, to the 5th spot in the rankings for running backs in fantasy football, 19 points a game. Here's the story on Mr. Hall. As I mentioned, he is averaging, or he scored 24 last week. He was drafted 56, there you go, in the 5th round in League De Nutz. 20 carries, 116 touchdown, all on the ground last week for the Jets. Jets acquired him, as you are reading that there, from the New York Giants. 5'10", 217 pounds, from Omaha, Nebraska, or as Eli Manning would say, Omaha. Anyway, on the other side of the fence, as Brees and Smash were high hurdling their way to victory, the other team, Stanford Does Nuts, kind of stuck in neutral. Not this guy. He's terrific. Deion Jackson, Indianapolis Colts. 27 points against Jacksonville. Really crafty football player. A little touch of Eckler meets Marshall Faulk. Best describe him that way. 12 carries with a dash of Tiki Barber. How about that? 12 carries, 42 yards, touchdown, 10 receptions. No touchdowns, but 79 yards. So the multi-versatile ball player doing justice for Stanford. They'll look to rebound against Polk next week. They most certainly will. Smash will take on AB's painted helmet. Now, next game we will highlight as we go through the scoreboard here on This Week in League De Nutz. Again, it is week 6 heading into week 7. Lots of bye weeks, I should say, or teams that are going to go on byes and weekends coming up. I will highlight that later. We'll talk about the scoreboard going into next week. And of course, I would be remiss to forget the splat and the melty, right? Anyway, let's move on. I keep digressing, but that's the nature of the show. Switching gears, let's celebrate a win for this guy right here last weekend. Keldar, what did he do? He was able to body slam. Boom. Delray Pounders. Let me see that one more time. Wow. That's a body slam. Who says wrestling is fake? Go tell a wrestler that. So the big win for Keldar. 3-3, 2 straight for the Pounders. Get the loss, but hey, as I mentioned, one of 3 4-win teams in the league. So they're doing something right overall heading into week 7. But a tough loss last week. You know, Keldar, really, the thing about Keldar, he's jonesing for just some consistency. And he gets it, winning their second in a row behind a couple of New York football giants. There you see it on the box score. Daniel Jones. Saquon, as the legendary Wonder Wolf would say, let's go to the videotape. Giants, Baltimore, MetLife Stadium. All right, enough Wonder Wolf. Jones with 16 for the 5-1 Giants. Barkley, 18, 22 carries, 83 yards, touchdown, 3 receptions, 12 yards. Austin Eckler, he's not in the video, of course, because he was playing his own game last week, but the kid is really awesome. Look at Daniel throwing that one deep. And goes out of bounds. But I'll tell you one thing about Daniel Jones. He is as gritty as you get. And he doesn't make a heck of a lot of mistakes. He plays within himself. He's maturing. And I think he's just playing for his life in New York, obviously. And he's stepping up to the plate. There's not much not to like. He's not an elite quarterback. How many are in the National Football League? But a gutsy play by Keldar. Did what he had to do at the quarterback position with Carr on bye. Anyways, you watch the highlights. Eckler, he had the 23 points, 14, talk about Marshall Faulk-like, 14 rushes, 36 yards. There he is. Animated version. 1 touchdown, 10 catches, 47 yards versus Denver. Number 1 rated running back in fantasy, 23 points per game. I watched this Nickelodeon interview because I wanted to see if he actually plays the guitar. He doesn't. How about that? But he likes to celebrate as if he's playing the guitar. I haven't watched any Nickelodeon in years, and I may never watch it again. But it was very informative for the interview. Anyway, Keldar, he had really great versatility on that starting lineup. In that starting lineup, 7 of 8 guys, the skills players, were over double digits. Del Rey, they rely heavily on this guy. Right here. You know who he is, right? The clip comes up. Maybe it won't. Trying to roll some Lamar for you. There we go. I'm telling you, the internet is a little slow. The Giant clips are great, but Baltimore clips are just a no-go. They're just going in slow motion. So, all right. Someone on the technical staff is going to pay for it. He may be wearing a Derek Jeter shirt. The merit's coming. Anyway. Lamar Jackson, that's who Del Rey relies on. Why shouldn't they rely on him? He's fantastic. But he has struggled a little bit lately, right? Weeks 1 through 3, pretty awesome, as he had 25, 57, 51, respectively. Weeks 3 through 6, 15, 15, 17. Last week, Jackson against the New York Giants. Well, some of those Giant highlights. He was okay, to say the least, as he was 17 of 32, 210 yards on the day through the air, 1 interception, 1 touchdown, fumbled the football. He always rushes for a lot of yards, and that's no surprise. See, I jinxed myself. That one's going slow, that video, too. Anyway, I think there's just a traffic jam on the information highway. But, as I said, he can always rush the football. Anytime he comes close to 100 yards, like with the 77 last week, you're not surprised. He is the 3rd best fantasy football quarterback right now with 30 points a game. So we'll see if Lamar can get back to that most valuable player form in Week 7 against Cleveland. Del Rey also gets back this dude. I saw the headline with my own 2 eyes today, and that is DeAndre Swift. Carries some concerns into his return from injury. But anytime they're talking about him returning, that's a good sign, I would think. Right? Even though he may be dinged up. Anyway, look at the, what's his face? The other kid I have from Baltimore. Dobbins. Talk about dinged up. I waited 4 games for him to come back. Showed some flashes in Week 5. Plays a little bit against the Giants. Then the knee starts hurting. Has 1 point for me last week. So I feel you with the DeAndre Swift type of situation. Speaking of Detroit, how about this? And headlines. Eddie Murphy, right? They're making Beverly Hills Cop Part 4. It's going to be on Netflix. I do not remember Part 3 at all. I think Part 2 is like the Alphabet Murders. Maybe I do remember Part 3, and that was it. Remember that. And I remember, of course, Part 1. How can you ever forget? Well, anything Eddie does, I'm a fan. They should bring him back to Saturday Night Live, make the show relevant and funny again. And he's the best. Anyway, as we talk Eddie Murphy, Keldar will get ready for his Week 7 tilt against Dingstown. Delray will go against Yonkers. On the scoreboard in this one, as we continue to plug through, was a heavyweight battle? Yeah, of course it was. Two former two-time champs. Excuse me as I take a sip of the clear stuff. Off camera. Use your imagination. It's water. Yeah, sure it is. Anyway, it was the final right there. It's in front of me. 145-142. Polk. 2-4 Loops. Now 3-3 in a heartbreaker for Polk. Why? I'm going to tell you about it, damn it. I'm telling you, right now, Polk has got a situation with the quarterback, which I'm going to explain. For Loopies, it's not much of a situation with the wide receiver position because he's got some great ones, including a tight end that's basically a wide receiver. Look at Juju. Welcome to Kansas City, Juju. As he becomes a Chief with his first touchdown. Well, he's been a Chief, but really makes things official. Just check out some of the highlights here. Juju with a big game. Last week, 5 catches, 113 yards, and that first touchdown for the Chiefs. It was a 42-yarder. The other superstar receiver on that other team over there, Polk High School, was great. DeMar Chase. He had 7 grabs for 132, 2 touchdowns. There goes Juju. And that was his first, touchdown as a Chief for Chase. His first-round pick for Polk High School. He did come through. He comes through every week. Loopies and Polk, well, the quarterback matchup kind of tame. Murray, a partisan 222 yards with an interception. Geno Smith, not much doing, 197 yards. It's interesting, too, for Polk High School, as I told you, they got a situation there with the quarterbacks. Because Polk is able to pick up Geno, has to bench Russell Wilson. Who can blame him, right? Geno has been pretty good this year. Really has. 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 6th best fantasy quarterback, 22 points per game. Last week, as I mentioned, about 200 yards, right? Only 11 points. Rushed for about 50. He's another one of those guys. Always seems to pick up yards. What NFL quarterback doesn't run these days for yards? Shows the old school. But no touchdowns, no interceptions, no touchdowns on the ground, no touchdowns through the air. But Polk High School had to do what they had to do in the situation of playing Geno over Wilson. In the end, that's what it looked like, right? Russell Wilson got a paltry 15 points compared to Geno's 11. If my math serves me correctly, that's a 4-point difference. And you look at the final score. Polk loses by 3. They start Geno, they win. They start Russell, they win by 1. You can't think that way. Cannot blame Polk High School whatsoever. Because I would have done exactly the same thing in rolling the dice with Geno over Russell Wilson any friggin' day of the week. Because to me, Dalio, I think Russell Wilson's just washed up. For some reason, I've seen Russell Wilson play more in the last 4 weeks than I did in any of his Super Bowl runs or ever in his career with Seattle. He's on in primetime every week, and I'm sorry to say, he seems like a great guy. He's been a tremendous football player. So it's almost a compliment to say he stinks because you're so used to seeing him play at such a dominant level. It's taken 6 weeks for me to accept the fact. I don't think Troy Aikman and his partner there in the broadcast booth have accepted the fact that he's washed up. But anyone would have done what Polk High School did, and you can't really justify it or shake it out that way. I mean, you look at the lineups, right? There's plenty of guys that could take the blame, win, lose, or draw. So, Polk High School, they've got Al Bundy behind them. You know, I wasn't going to do it unless they won, but I feel bad. I feel bad because that's a heartbreaking loss, and Russell Wilson hasn't worked out yet. Yet, put the hyphen. Russell Wilson, dash, yet. But since it was a heartbreaking loss, I'm sorry, I can't help myself. I like doing it myself. So, Polk High School, hang in there, and don't worry. Whoa, Bundy. All right. Good things to come for the Polk High School team, or fantasy football squad, or whatever the hell I'm trying to say. Okay, let's get off of the Whoa Bundy. Now I got to find myself back on camera. See, I got stuck Whoa Bundy. Don't turn off the show yet. I know the Yanks are going to start any minute, but give me a little time. Give me a little time. You can mute Bob Costas, right? Or John Sterling. Anyway, Polk High School, they know how to take care of business. 2-time defending champs. I won't be surprised if they find a way back and battle their way back into the playoff scene. Right? Don't count them out yet. So here's what Polk High School's got. This weekend, they will be in action against Stanford. And you see Luppies, they will be in action against Dax Pick 6. So, hey, all you can do is wish Polk High the best. You hope they wind up in Upper Uncton instead of Lower Uncton. By the way, just a little side note, tidbit. Geno Smith, I was trying to think before. That's not Geno Smith, but I'll tell you what I'm trying to say here. Get to the point. Geno Smith, I was trying to think before. How many teams has he been with? He's like the ultimate journeyman, right? The Giants, started with the Jets, of course, the Giants. San Diego. Seattle. I should have looked it up. I'm missing someone. Anyway, I think I'm missing someone. But I looked up, and this is what I did. I Googled journeyman sports. And this is the first athlete to come up. So I guess Nick Foles is the epitome of a journeyman quarterback, right? And that second stanza, go around in Philly, he did a Jeff Hostetler, became a backup from behind the scenes to step into prime time and then lead his team down the home stretch into playoff glory. And enough bragging about Foles and the Philadelphia Eagles. But that's interesting, I thought. You know? Of all the sports and all the journeymen, I thought Geno's kind of like a poor man's Nick Foles. Although, like I said, he's like 30 years old and he's playing some of the best football of his life. Maybe he's finally in the right system. He's playing with himself also, not making mistakes. So, we'll move on. Anyway, Polk and Loopy, best of luck. We'll see what happens for you guys in Week 7 and Week 6. This is what happened in this contest right here. For ABs, they pick up the win as they were able to bulldoze. When I use the term bulldoze, and you think of football, you think of a couple of guys, right? Boom! Look at that. Earl Campbell bulldozing his way through that Rams defender. Then you think, this guy, Riggo, John Riggins, right there. 1983 Super Bowl. He was the MVP of that Super Bowl for the Washington Redskins. That 43-yard run right there was the come-from-behind score and the go-ahead score. As you see, Riggins get the job done for the Washington Redskins against the Miami Dolphins. All right. But you use the word bulldoze, you've got to use fullbacks, old school, halfbacks that literally bulldoze their way through defenders. An interesting little side note, give me more Riggins, right? I wrote this down. That year in 83, the 82-83 season for the Redskins, he only had 553 yards rushing in 8 games. But the playoffs in 4 games, he had 610 yards for Riggins. Pretty amazing. Talk about going on a tear in the playoffs. All right, enough Riggins. Anyway, that 1-2 punch, Joe Burrow, Stephon Diggs, put them together, you get 85 points. Separately, Burrow responsible for 43, 300 yards on the nose, 4 touchdowns. Diggs is just a magnet for the football. He's got the Midas touch. Whatever he does on the field is golden. Truly is. 10 catches, 140 yards. You see it with your own eyes. Touchdown. 34 points per game makes him the top wide receiver in fantasy football. Second in the NFL with 49 receptions, 1 behind Hill. 6 touchdowns puts him second, 1 behind my guy, Kelsey. Now, I thought about this. If it doesn't work out for Joe Burrow, which I think it obviously is, and it will, he's a really, just a fun quarterback to watch, and I like the accuracy of the touch. He's got some fire in his belly, and he gives everything he's got on the field. He's a good old-fashioned, throwback kind of quarterback. But he's a new age kind of dude, and if it doesn't work out in football, he can always be part of the next cast of the Jersey Shore. It's coming. At some time, the current cast has to hang it up. And I can see Joe Burrow, if he doesn't already, at some point, professionally goes out there and does some GTL. If you don't know what GTL is, or didn't know, IDK, OMG, whatever. Anyway, the guy that throws the football to Diggs is this guy. And how do they do it so well? Right? You saw the box score. Let's take a look at it again. Look at Allen. I overlook him for a moment and take it from granted. I'll talk more about him. Right? 37 points in the loss. But how does he get so good and how does Diggs get so good? Because they practice. Whoops. This guy had a little clip of the Buffalo Bills practice he saw in Orchard Park. See that? That's what it is. Practice, practice, practice. Regardless of what Allen Iverson said. Even practice is the dance. That's when you know you've got some professionals. Thanks for the clip. Couldn't see who I credited that to, but who we could credit it to, but who cares? Anyway, I enjoyed the dance there and seeing how he gets ready for prime time. And you see Josh Allen, right on the nose, time after time. They perfect and craft their trade, and it shows on the football field Thursday, Sunday night, and Monday whenever they're playing. It seems like they're playing a lot in prime time for good reason. I'd much rather see Buffalo's Bills than Denver's Broncos right now. And the exciting quarterback in Buffalo as they help get that win. Josh Allen, as I mentioned, he was great. But the problem is he was the only guy that was really doing anything in the lineup for Dak's picks. There you go. Once again, 37 points. Only 2 guys in double figures. Dak's picks drafted Aaron Jones, 19th overall. Okay? In the League De Nutz draft. You have to take a guy that talented. But he's been somewhat disappointing. I think he's going to wind up having a great year. I know he splits time with Dylan in Cheesehead Land. He's the 11th ranked running back, averaging 14 points per game. Has only hit over 30 once. In week 2, 36. Last week, struggled against the Jets with 6. Week before against New York's other team, the Giants in London, he only had 9. Can't blame it on bad fish and chips. Other running back right there for Dak's picks, Montgomery. They took him in the 5th round of the League De Nutz draft, averaging 10 points per game. He'll have a chance at New England. this season. He's been a little bit down himself this year. Neither players really played as well as they have the year before last, and that's when they were both top 5 guys. You see it there in 2020. So both of them, and Dak's picks is certainly hoping that they can get back to that form a couple of years ago where they were amongst the elite in the National Football League. Dax will go against Loop. Loopy's Legends. Sorry, Loopy, I just know you so well. I can just call you Loop, right? And it will be ABs taking on Smash U. So that's what's going to go on for those teams. Best of luck to them. Let's move on to our final one to wrap it up. Dingstown. They torpedoed the fantastic Mr. Fox. 137 to 102 in this one. That was the final. You see the box score right there. Dings does it with Michael Pittman Jr. One off on Sunday. He's alive and well. 38 points. A little bit quiet since week 1 for this guy right here. His outburst in week 1 was good for 39. Last week, got back to those standards, 38 against Jacksonville. 13 catches on 16 targets, 134 yards. You know League De Nutz is a wide receivers league, and this stud on the Indianapolis Colts looking ready for the second half of the season and a big stretch of football as he got things going, firing on all cylinders. Here you can see where he stands for the season. Dings got the win, of course, and they only got 7 from Herbert for the Chargers, and you know, doesn't matter, you get the win, but Dings did leave an interesting move. He left Waddle on the bench for 28. As for Mr. Fox, well, their trio, including the guy in the middle, not much brewing. No TLC. Jeff Wilson Jr., pictured left corner. The old donut, 7 rushes, 25 yards. Had 25 the week before for San Fran. By the way, I've been to San Francisco, and I've been semi-scalded for saying San Fran. I've been told, people don't say that out there. Fair enough. San Francisco. Cortland Sutton. There he is, dancing. Everyone in the NFL seems like a good dancer, right? 3 points. 15th best receiver in fantasy football. 18 points per game. Talked about Russell Wilson. There's absolutely no way this guy is being utilized his talents to the fullest. Not a good situation for him or Denver because he's an extraordinary receiver. He should be a top 10 guy, top 5 easily. So a little bit of tough luck there for fantastic Fox. I feel you on that situation. Hayden Hoist, there he is with that big beard right there, the lumberjack. Only 5 points for him. So Mr. Fox, they'll take on yours truly in the Nuttstown Destroyers in week number 7. Dings will face Keldar. That's a wrap on the scoreboard. In week number 6, let's move on to splat time, shall we? Now, the Meltzy is pretty interesting, okay? Because, where's my Meltzy note? I don't know where that is, but I think I remember it. Whoops. Hold on one sec. Anyway, I think this is the deal. We had 3 teams that almost competed for the Meltzy in week number 6. Delray, they had what? I got the scoreboard right here. Oh, I can just look at the scoreboard. Preparation, practice. Talked about that practice and the preparation, right? With Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs. Well, I'm prepared myself. Allen Iverson. Okay, so look at that right there. Look at that, my friends. Delray almost made it a 3-horse race to tie for the Meltzy. But in the end, we had a tie for the Meltzy, which isn't an easy thing to do. Not as hard as winning the Powerball, getting struck by lightning. But 91 and 91. Top corner, top left, top right. Yonkers falls to me by 40. And then Dax almost doubled up, right? More than doubled up, yeah. More than doubled up by AB with 91. So that leads us to the scoreboard on the Melty list. And you've got Yonkers right now leading the way. When you're 2-4 on the season, last place in the Haganah, you don't want to be in first place on the Melty scoreboard. So Yonkers, for the second time this season, you get a little splat-a-tat-tat-splat. Yonkers. You got to do better than that, Yonkers. We're all expecting you to do better than that, my friend. You get splatted all over the place for a job poorly done. Okay, enough of the splat. As I look for my final notes, I'm just letting the splat go. I made some mess. Okay, let's go on to this. Gross you out. The buys. So those are your buys for the week. Or I should say for the season, right? Take a snapshot of that. It's a good one to have on hand. As you can see, week 7, you've got Buffalo, Philadelphia, Minnesota, all going on their buys. So you got to be ready. Start your lineup accordingly, right? You have all kinds of stuff in football now with the London games, the buys, the Thursday night game. And they always release the injury reports right about when kickoff should happen. So got to be prepared. Okay, let me find my notes. I got them. All right, so you've got the buys down. Only one more thing left to do, and that's a little preview. Let's do it. And then you can get to your Yankees baseball. So here we go into week 7. First matchup, top left corner, Nutztown against Mr. Fox. They've lost 3 in a row. Fox, Nuts has won 3 in a row. Nuts comes into this one as an 11-point favorite. Good news is for Fox, they may have Tua back. They could start him over Brady. And Tua will take on Pittsburgh and should be able to, as long as he's healthy, right? Knock on wood or glass. I like Tua. As long as he's healthy, he should be able to pick Pittsburgh apart, I would think. And that Miami Dolphins offense would become high-flying again. I'll have Miles Sanders out for the bye. Really, the bye's not affecting anyone on Fox. Fox is a former champ in the league. He's a respected opponent. Of course, I'm going to say I'm going to win. I think I'm going to have a closer than 11-point game. So I think Fox covers, Nutztown wins. All right. Second, we'll go with Polk High School in Stanford. Polk High comes in with a 36-point favorite. As a 36-point favorite, 2-4. Again, 2-time champ. Stanford, the rookie in the league, 3-3. Tough for Stanford, no Cooper Kupp. Top guy on that squad. You lose 33 points per game. Not really affecting Polk the bye. For Polk, I think they need more from Zeke Elliott. Of course, they need more from the quarterback position. You know, you need Geno now. If he's going to be your guy, he's got to be consistent. And you would figure Zeke Elliott could be a guy to step up. 27th ranked running back in football. I know he splits time with the other kid in Dallas, number 20. Name escapes me. 10 points per game for Zeke, not very Zeke-like. I think it'll be huge. Of course it'll be huge for Polk High School to get Zeke going to maybe, up another notch. In 3 quarters, I think he's about half the player he was. Get him to 3 quarters. Or 80% of the player he once was. It's going to be big time for Polk High School. I'll take Stanford with the points. 36 is a lot. Polk wins. Next, Keldar, Dingstown. Keldar, 9-point favorite. Both 3-3. They both have won 2 in a row. Keldar, 2-time champ. Dingstown knocked yours truly off in 18 for the title, his only title. Each and every year he's competitive. He's in the playoffs. Same with Keldar. You expect these two guys to show up and duel each other close. I'll take Dings with the points. I'm going to go with With Keldar for the win. Only because for Dings, a little bit tough without Jefferson. He's on bye. Vikes are on bye. Keldar, a little bit of the bye will affect him. Gabe Davis, I know he's been huge for Keldar in spots. Devin Singletary, he's out, but I think Keldar will be able to sustain some choppy waters with the Barkley-Eckler combo taking on Kenneth Walker and Edwards-Helaire, for Kansas City. So I'll take Keldar with the win, Dinks to cover. Next, Yonkers Shotgunners. Bottom left against Del Rey. Yonkers finds himself a 33-point dog, 2-4. Told you they just took their second straight meltsy. Del Rey 4-2. Del Rey not affected by the bye. They get Swift back. Talked about that. Yonkers can't catch a break. They're going to have Hurts and Freeman out. It's going to be tough. Very, very tough. Yonkers, all kinds of problems with the quarterback position. Told you they got Hill. Plucked him off the waivers for tight end. They go with Marcus Mariota. Good luck. I'm going with Del Rey and the 33 to cover. Sorry, Yonkers. I know you're in the Haganah, but it is what it is. I wish you luck. Make me a believer. Make me a fool. Well, you don't have to make me a fool. That's pretty easy. Anyway. Good luck to Yonkers, and good luck to Del Rey. Last two to preview. Dak's picks against Loopies. Right in the middle, right? Both 3-3. Tough for Loops. They're going to be without Josh Allen. Just talked all kinds of praise for him. Dak's picks, no A.J. Brown. Good wide receiver there, 7 points, like 17 a game out of his lineup. It's a big matchup at quarterback here. We'll see Jimmy G against Kyler Murray. I'm sorry, I said Dak's picks. I said Loopy's going to be without Allen. They'll have Kyler Murray, their starter. Dak's picks will be without Allen, but they'll plug in Jimmy G. Should be interesting. Jimmy G is averaging 17 points a game. Murray, I said, just about 21, talking about him before. So we'll see what happens in this one. A very close line. I'm looking at it now. It's 7 points for Dak's picks as the favorite. Wow, this one should be a pick'em. This is going to be a tough matchup. Tell you what, I'm going to go with Loopies and the upset. They're going to cover and they're going to win. This is the nail biter of the week. We have not had a pure tie, right, to go to the benches. I have some weird reason this one's going to come down to like a 153. You go to the bench. Then you get Warner Wolf to do, let's go to the videotape. Let's go to the bench. I had to get a second Warner Wolf in there. I'm sorry. Anyway. Finally, to wrap it up here, ABs will be in action against Smash. ABs 3-3, Smash 4-2, a 47-point favorite. Wow. We'll figure that, man. Was it a homecoming week for Smash? Well, they will be able to celebrate this dude coming back. One of my all-time favorite fantasy football players off his suspension. Talk about going to get the football. Look at that. DeAndre Hopkins for the Arizona Cardinals. Spent the last 2 years in Arizona. 2020 had an amazing season. 115 catches. Last year, only played 10 games, had like 40-something grabs. But he'll be back for Smash U in that lineup. He'll have Devontae Adams, who he traded for, off the bye week. So there goes your 47-point favorite, I think, with all that talent, right? AB's no bye, so they can rely on that mix of players that I talked about before with the Mixon, Chubb, and, of course, Burrow. I think they can cover 47. That's a lot. But I'm going with Smash to improve to 5-2 on this season. So that's what I think is going to happen in week 7. As we wrap it up, I always have to remind you that's what we're playing for. The Nutz Cup, bragging rights for a year. Only one team leaves, 12 enter, right? As League De Nutz champion. I'm going to go because we're going to watch the Yankees. I wish everyone a great week 7 and lots of luck. Start your winningest fantasy football lineup out there. Do the best you can. Cross the fingers, cross the toes. Wish for a lot of luck, and hopefully you'll come up a winner. And we'll talk all about it this week in League De Nutz and week number 8 next week. Hard to believe. We'll be officially at the midway point, and we'll recap this week in week number 7. So again, I'm Matt Levine for this week in League De Nutz saying so long, go Yankees. Enjoy your fantasy football